What's up, y'all? I'm Deeg, here today chatting with Melderon. How's it going, man?
It's going. It's going good. We were just talking about pre-stream about just playing some D2R. I'm in a good mood. It's a great game.
Diablo,
Yeah,
reliving the past.
that's pretty much all I do nowadays.
You know, there's something to it, right?
Yeah,
Something about the nostalgia, something about recalling that point of view when you were younger and things were different. It's powerful.
it is powerful.
Yeah. Well, can I call you Mel?
Sure.
Do people call you Mel?
Yes, they do.
Okay.
Yeah, if in raid or something, yeah, they say Mel. Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
I like it. Mel. Okay, Mel. So you and I first caught up about a year ago. Actually, it was about 10 months ago, right before Nax was coming out for Classic World of Warcraft. We met with you and your brother and Def Camp. Awesome. And we had a great time talking about all kinds of things. Classic WoW, the kind of the the buzzing hype that led up to it, what it was when it landed, and where it was going. It's been a year. Things have happened. And I saw a video that you published, I guess it was maybe about a month ago now, that where you were saying you were going to be leaving content creation behind, the end of an era.
Yeah. It wasn't an easy decision, but it's something I had to do for myself. It was a lot. Working full time and trying to keep up with the Joneses when it comes to content creation. And it's just one of those things where I was like, like I did a lot. I've accomplished a lot. I think it's just time to ride off into the sunset.
Yeah.
And it's funny because about a year and a half, maybe 2 years ago, before Classic WoW launched, I said to Def Camp, like during a stream or something, I was like, I think it's time for me to ride off into the sunset pretty soon. I didn't think it was going to be that much longer because it was just, I mean, my goals have been accomplished. The whole goal of the channel was to get Classic WoW to launch.
Uh huh.
I
Uh
really
huh.
didn't have any plans after that. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, it's coming out now. What am I going to do?
After that, it was just cashing in, just enjoying the ride.
Right. Yeah. So, and then like I just said, oh, I'll make some shaman content and I'll just keep making stuff and then just got to the point where I was like, man, the game's it's a solved game, right? So there's still a lot of things you can come
Yeah.
up with and understand. And I think I brought a lot of that to attention with the shaman stuff and the shaman
Definitely.
Discord that I built. And I don't know. It's just I think it just run its course. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. To let a good thing be in the past.
yeah. Leave it when it's healthy. When it's good instead of crashing and burning or getting to the point where you're losing your mind or it's the
Yeah.
content's bad. That's I wanted to avoid that too. So
Sure.
leaving a good note was always good. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. There's a sort of, I think, um, meta irony of deciding to let a re-release of a game that you played when you were younger be done. Like it's almost like I have this. Okay, here's the question I want to ask you.
Hmm.
So very different points in your life. Last time we talked, you described what it was like to get into content creation, like you were describing. I think what you had said was, if I remember right, that you lost interest in retail somewhere around the Wrath uh, Mists kind of transition,
Hmm.
and you found the private scene, the kind of dangerous pirate private scene of World of Warcraft, and all those edgy individuals that were making that live. And then you wanted this thing to live, and there are things going on in your real life. I think you had said that kind of made you need something to kind of grab onto, and that was there for you. And there was a moment where it was like, yes, let's sink in, let's make this happen. Let's look back at this thing that meant so much to me, and let's bring it back and make it roar. And now you're looking at this thing, now you're looking at it again from, I think, a very different point of view, which is like, this thing, it was great, but it can be done now. Have things changed for you? Have you changed? Or is it just the difference of the externalities, just the game and the community and the studio a little bit too, maybe? Where does that lie for
Great
you?
question. It's a very convoluted and complex answer, but I think it's all of those things combined.
Uh huh.
I don't know the direct percentages of proportions of what made that decision, but you know, the world kind of. I mean, we're still in a pretty bad place with the pandemic, but work has changed significantly. I'm actually moving to LA in January for a new
Oh,
job.
exciting.
Yeah, which is crazy. I never thought I'd live in LA, to be honest. And
Oh, that's gonna be a new
so
world.
oh yeah, that's part of it. That's a huge part of it, like just career wise. Um, the the kind of decisions Blizzard made with TBC, I wasn't aligned with.
Mm,
Um, the boost, the mount, the Hearthstone thing, the all the cat shop, that was really hard to swallow.
yeah.
The lack of kind of just like the amount of time it takes Blizz to fix stuff, like even with like they released KT and Vash with like parts of the loot table missing.
Mhm.
It's just kind of like what is going on, and it's the hardest thing to come to grips with is that private servers did a better job, and that's the really hard pill to swallow because you wanted this to come. I made my
Yeah.
channel so that an official server would come out, and then playing the official servers for as long as I have, and then just thinking to myself like, man, private servers were a better environment, and that's partially because of my server. Scarum was a PvP server, and now it's a PvE server because there's no alliance left.
Boy, what a
Um,
weird phenomenon
yeah,
the faction dynamics are becoming. It's getting so bad.
crazy,
Every retail game too, same problem.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was tough because I signed up for if you choose PvE or PvP, you sign up for that type of environment.
Mhm.
I signed up for PvP because I love World PvP and I love the interactions you can have with the opposite faction,
Yeah.
and that just didn't happen. It turned into griefing, basically world buff griefing, which happened on private servers, but there was a 50-50 split pretty much on most private servers, so it was kind of like I don't know, it was a lot different. It was
Mhm.
you'd have these South Shore versus Terran Mill skirmishes every once in a while. You'd have these things, and it's just not happening on Skyrim. So it's and then the icing on the cake was what happened to Blizzard, right? I think that's kind of what teetered me over the edge because I was on the edge already, and that happened, and it was just like I can't in good conscience. Like I think I called it in the video free advertisement because that's what
Yeah.
content creation is, right? When you get down to what it really does, what's the purpose of it? It's to get people to play,
Mhm.
um, and I can't. I don't know, man. It's just Blizzard's not Blizzard anymore. It's not, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people feel that way. Yeah,
Yeah, for sure something's changed. Something is totally different now. Um,
yeah,
like and yeah, so we can understand that the behind the scenes, whatever has come out has been a phenomenon for a long time. Um, but there's a Blizzard has had for so long this mystique about it, this kind of machismo, you could almost say, which is a
mm.
interesting choice of mine, I think, to use that word. Um, but
It fits
saying
though. I think. I
our
think it's
game,
that's prophetic.
yeah,
Sorry.
like the machismo, it's like no, screw you. Our game is done when we think it's good. It's
Right.
almost like we don't care what you think as much as what we think. What do we want it to be? What do we think is good? And you you do that for years and years, and it works. And you create BlizzCon and all these just this rabid. I've never seen other than maybe like pre Fallout 76 Bethesda, maybe
Mm.
sort of similar. I've never seen such loyalty and fandom for a studio before.
Neither do I.
And
They're kind of like Disney.
I don't know if we'll ever see
You
something
know.
like it again, to be honest.
I don't think so either. I think they're like in like the Disney caliber, like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
the Metallica. Trying to think of like bands that everyone knows and likes. It's like these um Coca-Cola. They're
Yeah.
the Coke of game. It's they were there, man, and they had it all, and they just kind of squandered it because
Fuck,
they
man.
thought they couldn't fail.
And
Yeah,
we should call out the elephant in the room. The state of California filed a lawsuit. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how this stuff works, but basically,
Yeah.
at the tail end of what seemed like a 2-year state investigation about sexism and harassment within the workplace. Um, I actually at the time I was thinking about doing some content on it, and I read a lot of the legal brief. And if you read it, it's kind of all over the place. But it's clear that it did its job. Like it kind of pulled back the curtain to say, and it might not have been an actor with the best intent or best method, but it's like, oh my god, what's back here? You forget about who pulled the curtain back, and all you're looking at is the horror of what you didn't know was inside. Um, all the people who've come out, the debate in the scene about boycott versus not boycott. I think one of the most conflicted dynamics for me when thinking about the situation and observing the community is there's this broader conversation at the industry level about how game studios self-govern and how they're sort of audited externally, how we understand they do the work, and what kind of expectations we have for the people building our worlds. There's that, and then there's also the long running problem that's been going on, which is that World of Warcraft is fading.
Mm.
Irregardless of anything else that's been going on at the studio, and maybe there's a connection. You can make the argument, but there, the transition from classic World of Warcraft to Burning Crusade Classic. On your video, you said that you thought classic Burning Crusade was the best of World of Warcraft. Do you still feel that way?
In a vacuum, yes.
Yeah.
I think I kind of did it with the cars, right? So I think
Yeah,
TBC
yeah,
is
yeah.
like
Hmm.
the high end sports car.
So what's that difference? What is it that makes Burning Crusade the best in a vacuum, but maybe not as good as classic vanilla in some ways?
I think it's the player base. I think it's the player base and the development team.
Uh huh.
They have to be in sync, and I think they were in sync a lot more back then than they are now. I think that the player
Okay.
base has changed. Obviously, we've seen that. Um,
Mm.
I think that the development team has obviously changed as well. And I think if with fresh eyes, TBC is a better expansion in every possible way on paper, right? It's like
Mhm.
less, um, there's less really weird crap to do. Like you have to get reputations up to revered. You run heroics. You get the heroics. You get badges. You spend badges. You go to
Yeah.
Karazhan, which
It
is a
seems
small
pretty
raid,
front loaded
and
though, co-
yes,
compared to
it is
classic.
front loaded in a
Sorry,
way.
go ahead.
Yeah,
It-
I can see that argument because because heroics tend to fade. That you don't have to do them as much. Like I don't do heroics at all. Pretty much right
huh.
now. You will have to later for badge gear that's updated. The PvP system is way better. Arena and the honor system in TBC doesn't facilitate that really unhealthy behavior,
Mm-hmm.
gameplay behavior. Um, Arena is a lot of fun. I really, really enjoy it. The rating is more fun in my opinion. There's more mechanics. There's more to do. 25-man raids are smaller. It's more it feels more in sync.
Are you
So
still
everything.
raid leading, by the way?
Yeah. So I'm a GM. Actually, we have two
Yeah.
raid leads as well. So we have
Oh,
raid leads.
right.
That's like a job, and then we have GM position. So yeah, I'm still
Uh
GM
huh.
with my
Uh
brother
huh.
and Talix, who's the other GM.
Okay.
We
Okay.
have three.
So you're
So,
still in the
yeah, yeah.
in the thick of it.
Yeah, we just attempted KT last night, didn't get him down, but so we have KT and Vosh left this week, and we're gonna be raid again on Monday. I don't think we'll get them both, but we're trying to. But it's the rating is much more difficult because of world buffs. There's no world buffs, right?
Uh
That's
huh.
the other
Uh huh.
thing. That's the other huge thing is that you don't have this really impending thing on your shoulder at all times. Um, so yeah, but uh, maybe I should stop and just let you go. So sorry because I was going to compare it to classic.
Oh, I
But
would
yeah.
love if you did that, please.
So, like I said in the video, like I think that TBC is a sports car in a way that it's fine tuned to the player experience. Um, but classic vanilla is, in my opinion, the old muscle car, or the car, whatever you can use, whatever car you can think of in your head, that
Okay.
beautiful vehicle that maybe isn't the newest car in the world, but it's something that you have near and dear to your heart. Like for
It
me,
has a
it's the
mystique.
old, yeah, like for me, it's the old Acura NSX from the '90s. I love that
Uh,
car. I've always wanted that car.
okay.
Um, and I look at classic WoW or something like that, or an old Corvette or an old Camaro or something like that, right? It has the mystique. It has the. It's not perfect. It has issues. Like there's it's not as fast as the newer cars,
Hmm.
but it has that image. It has that like really powerful, uh, and it brings back memories or whatever you could think of.
Yeah, it
But
occupies
classic
a
WoW
powerful
is
place
yeah,
in your mind, in your identity.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
let's
Vanilla
see,
is
like,
that. That's vanilla.
yeah. So, one of the interesting dynamics, I don't want to use the word dynamics for every damn thing, it's too broad. One of the funny correlations, let's say that, I've drawn, and you're a scientist, so I know you'll understand the difference. Um, in hearing people give feedback about Burning Crusade Classic, the community, the scene, is actually a lot of it is age. What age were people when they played Classic? I mean, original vanilla, original
Originally,
Burning Crusade. I was I was college age, early 20s. What about you?
same.
So
Yeah,
we're about the same age. We probably have a similar
right.
perspective. I was, college was miserable for me personally. So, uh, WoW for me was an answer for what do I occupy myself, if not with being successful at school. I think a lot of people did it that way back in the day.
Yeah,
But a lot
WoW's
of
really good at that.
yeah, well, it's the virtual world, man. I think that we're only going to see more and more of it. But a lot of the strongest voices I see, and I'm thinking specifically of like, kind of Asmongold is like the king of them, but there's a lot. There's a whole cohort of really ascendant voices who were all teenagers when the game came out at the time. And although they loved the game at the time, they consumed it in a different way. Um, and so that for them coming back to classic, I think must feel very different. Have you observed this as well, or am I just making this up?
I mean, no. So, like for me, my original experience in vanilla and TBC was it was incomplete and it was I was terrible, right?
Yeah.
I- so when people say you can't get the same experience again, I wasn't looking for that experience again. I was
Uh
looking for
huh.
a totally different experience, and I got it, which was
Yeah.
I'm really happy about. I got to do all the content. I got to raid with a great group of people. Um, and I saw everything. The only thing I didn't do was get high warlord. It's
Uh
my
huh.
biggest regret is not doing it. I got to rank 11, and I was like, enough.
You
After 11,
regret
that
not
was
going for
crazy.
that? That is one of the most hellacious grinds in all of
I
gaming,
know.
man.
I
I don't know.
wanted it in yeah,
I guess if you want it, you want it, man. If you
yeah.
can say that you did it all, like what like the hat trick? Like there's High Warlord's got to be one. Scarab Lord, that's got to be another.
And then
Um,
I guess seeing everything, right?
a Thunder Fury maybe.
Thunder
If you're
Fury,
playing that
yeah,
class,
right.
um, a
Yeah, I think you're right.
legendary.
Those are
Let's
like
say
the
it that
three
way.
things that are yeah, a legendary, right? Which unfortunately the shaman you really can't get. So it's
Yeah.
you're right. So I didn't get to experience those three things, but I got to experience everything else pretty much.
I'm
And
not trying to downplay it, dude. It's just kind of like I think
yeah,
I watched S Fan talk about how what his goals were with the experience. It was getting those things, and it was interesting
mm,
for me because um, I probably spent more time thinking about the game than I have actually playing it. For me, I didn't need to put more. I didn't feel like I needed to put any more than. Oh boy, I think I played when Classic WoW released. I probably played hard for 2.5, 3 months, and then put it to the side.
mm,
Um, and then when Burning Crusade out, I got into Hellfire Peninsula. And I was like, yeah, I don't need any of this anymore. Like I'm good.
mm.
Um,
Understandable.
but for me, it's not because I didn't think the game was good. It's more a reflection on where I am personally and
Right.
what my interests and how I want to use my time. Um, and maybe I'm wrong, but I got a similar vibe from you as well.
Um, So not that extreme. I'd say that
Okay.
I'm not playing as much as I was in Classic, but I'm still playing pretty. I still
Okay.
have I have 270s. I have
Yeah.
another one on the way. So it's TBC is great because I can log in and do dailies, and then that's it. And then I can come back in 2 days and not miss anything, and I can just raid. I could raid log if I want to, and I did that for a couple weeks. I was like, I'm just gonna raid log this week, and I did. And then the next week I was, I'll do some dailies and make some gold. So that's another reason why I love TBC is that there's not this feeling that you have to log in all the time. And
Uh-huh.
with world buffs, I feel like that was something like you're always checking your calendar, setting alarms on your phone. Okay, set alarm for this time when this world buff drops. You know, and then it's like there's none of that, which is
Mhm.
another reason why I like TBC better than vanilla
Yeah.
on
A,
paper. Yeah,
a little more lifestyle friendly.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, man, I hear that. But there definitely is something different about I when Classic came out, I kind of felt like there was a cultural event happening. Like something really
Mm.
important was happening. You know, you were kind of calling Blizzard like, you know, comparing it to Coke and Metallica. What brings all these things together? Well, they're kind of these outstanding examples of their industry that are so successful that they kind of break free from the traditional channels these things are discussed and thought about. Um, you know, Metallica became a huge phenomenon. Coke, obviously, I mean, it's Coke.
Yeah,
Um, there are a few other examples too. Like Apple became this huge cultural force when it started just being someone who made consumer computer technology. Um, there is something about that, and something that's very sad about when that goes away. Um, and I feel like in some ways, perhaps, as you say, the reason the reason I'm not playing Burning Crusade isn't because I don't think it's a good game, but more so because it doesn't feel like it's important that I be there.
mm.
Like, it doesn't feel like there's something culturally important happening there. It doesn't feel like there's anything for me to learn by having that experience. And a big part of that is the fact that I literally did it all before, however many years ago, 14 years ago. Um, but another big part of that is I really was convinced before Classic came out that there was something changing about the world of video games. And looking back at it now, I guess 2 years later, I'm not so sure how I feel about that anymore.
I think a lot of us thought that how can I say this? I think a lot of us thought that vanilla coming out was going to somehow cause some type of zeitgeist in gaming, where it was going to, a revolution, if you will. If you that good MMOs people are finally going to see what a good MMO looks like, and then
Yes.
developers might do this and that. And I guess I for some reason I didn't really have that feeling, but
Okay.
I will say that the um, launching up the classic, the environment, people's emotions. Let's use Asmongold for an example,
Fine.
right? So
Yeah.
he was really into it, wanted to play it, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
Talking about it nonstop, watching videos about it nonstop. That got everyone else doing it. A lot of new content creators came onto the scene because of it. Because the game was coming back that everyone wanted for so long because retail wasn't providing them that place,
Mm.
whatever you want to call that,
Yeah.
whether it's character identity or whatever you want to call it, world building. It was gone from retail.
Hmm.
And then I think a lot of people who didn't play private servers saw vanilla and was like, oh, this is different than what I thought it was going to be, right? Because it requires a lot of, the leveling is tedious.
Hmm.
Raid getting world buffs is tedious. Dragging 40 people around is tedious. All these things are tedious. And I don't think people were ready for that, especially because that population of people is now maybe has children and a wife or husband or whatever.
Yeah.
Nobody really thought about that. And I think that's someone like me who played private servers. I'm like, okay, finally, I have an official place to play. I don't have to worry about it getting shut down. That was my only big thing. That was
That's a sense of
I have
relief.
somewhere,
Yeah.
right. So
And you
that,
can be
but
out in the
like for
public about it. And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but for most people, it was reliving their childhood, which is impossible when you have a child or a job or
Right.
a yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, do you think that there are some people who were able to relive their childhood by replaying WoW Classic?
I think people tried really hard and lost some things.
Like what?
I think people, jobs, relationships. Um, I know people who went high warlord and just no life the game.
Hmm.
I know people who would not sleep. I think people tried to do that, and you will inevitably fail. Not because you're a bad person or a bad player or not good at the game, because you're just a different person now, and
Yeah.
you have much more responsibilities, and you can't sit in your dorm room or your mom's house or your dad's house or your basement. You can't do that anymore, right? So
No.
it's this. Some people maybe, but you know, we aren't those people anymore, and I think
Hmm.
that's the biggest thing. The biggest letdown of classic WoW is not the gameplay, not that
Hmm.
the bosses are easy, not this and not that. It's because their image of what their world was going to look like didn't match when the game came out. I think that's the big
Yeah.
unveil for most people. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? I love the way you said that. You really rang a bell for me. What you just said, I think, is the unstated critique behind so much frustration that we hear within the gaming scene of the game is shit, garbage, trash, developers lazy, bad, stupid, sexist, whatever. And, gamers are rarely right about their diagnosis of the situation,
Hmm.
but they're right about how they feel. And I really have this strong intuition that what they feel might be rooted in what you just said. Do you hear a lot of that in the scene around you, or is this just something that I'm picking up from the angry kind of redditors and content creators? Is this a real common thing, or is it just a problem with people who are, you know, uh, got big egos and need to talk? What do you think?
Um, I don't know if I can answer that. I think that
Okay, okay,
it's a hard question for me to answer. I think that there's people that it does apply. I think there's people that just played the game and realized right away it wasn't for them anymore. I
yeah,
think there's those people, and I think there's some people who wanted something out of it and didn't get that thing. And I think that's not because of the game, but because of the impossible expectations they put on themselves and the world, right?
yeah,
Or the experience. Like just because Classic WoW is coming out in 2019 doesn't mean you're going to be in that safe place you were as a child,
yeah, yeah,
before you had all these responsibilities and just soaked yourself into this game forever
right,
and all your troubles went away. As a kid, you can do that. As an adult, you can. You can, but it's just always there and creeps up. Your
uh
parents
huh,
can't save you. You're I don't know. When you're a child, when you're young, even in college, as I was, as we were when the game came out,
yep,
there's a safety net. There's still this.
hmm,
The net starts to fray as time goes on, but it's still there. And I think that people in their 30s, the safety net's pretty much gone,
hmm,
and you can't really rely on everything else anymore. And I think that's Asmongold's been talking about it recently. He's been
hmm.
talking about Dr. K, who's that therapist.
I love his content.
Yeah, so do I.
His conversation he did with Asmongold, the most recent one,
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
that is a banger of a
Yeah,
conversation. Holy shit.
and that's exactly. I think Asmongold just embodied and personalized that exact experience. I think everyone's having that. That's our age,
Yeah.
and I think, or at least people who play WoW. And he said, I don't want to grow up.
Yeah.
He said that he doesn't want his parents to die. He doesn't want, you know, he foresees a time when gaming will come to an end for him.
Mhm.
There's only one constant in the universe, and it's change, right? That's the only one. And except for the speed of light. Okay, we have physical properties that are
Okay,
unchanged, but
Mr.
as
Scientist.
yeah, but as far as people, right? As far
Uh-huh.
as people, the only thing constant for us is change. That's it,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and that's the hardest pill to swallow for every person who's ever existed on this planet. Right? Is that?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and I think a lot of people thought Classic WoW was going to stop the change
Stop the
for them,
clock.
or yeah, and it can't, and well, and it has aged. Let's just admit it. It has aged.
Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah,
so it is aged, and at the same time, we've all become so much more sophisticated in the way we consume these experiences. It just has stood no
yeah.
chance against us.
No,
Yeah,
I mean, I think every single, I mean, 99% of guilds looked up strats. 99% of guilds world buffed.
of course.
You know, these bosses don't stand a chance against world buffs. They don't stand a chance against the optimal builds and the optimal talents and the optimal weapons and
Yeah.
using a level, level 49, whatever the edge masters handguards are. They're like level 40 something epics that give
Mhm.
+7 to each weapon skill. No one would wear them back in the day. No one knew that was a good thing.
Level
Why would they wear
49
a
epic.
chip?
Are you a
You know?
noob? What the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
You're a
So
warrior. Why are you wearing leather?
I don't know what people thought was going to happen when Classic came out, but this stuff has been theory crafted for. I,
Yeah.
private servers have been around for 10 years,
Mhm.
like more than that. And people have been theory crafting this game forever, and people thought that it was going to be, oh, let's go back to it when it was hard again. And
Mhm.
it's not hard. Mythic's hard. Like, that's hard. The new retail content's hard. If you want a challenge, that's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's the irony of
But,
it.
right,
Is the
right.
thing that people say they want is what the retail game is actually delivering.
Yeah, for the end game, for sure. I definitely agree.
Yeah.
End game PvE, retail is the challenge, 100%.
Mhm.
Um, but, for people like me, who played private service for so many years, it was just, for me, I knew that was my environment. Classic WoW is my environment. It's my favorite game. Um,
Yeah.
and I just was happy that we had an official launch, and
Mhm.
it would bring more people in, and that's what it did, for sure. And what's really funny is I did a podcast recently with Warcraft Reloaded.
Uh,
I actually do that monthly, and just
Oh,
as a
cool.
guest. Yeah, just keep myself kind of in the
Is
loop.
there a specific cadence for that? It's come out on a certain day of the month?
Uh, it's usually a Friday, and it's usually like they just kind of hit me up. Hey, what day of the month do you want to come on?
Cool,
What,
cool.
what Friday do you want to come on? And we were talking about there's actually more raiders now currently raiding than there was during Nex in
Mhm.
Classic
Oh,
in
interesting.
TBC. Yeah.
Huh.
Eh,
Why do you think that
So
is?
I think the raids are more fun, and there's no world
Yeah.
buffs, and there's less to
Yeah.
do. But but no one's talking about that. No content creator is saying, by the way, TBC has more raiders right now than during Max and Vanilla because it's not sexy. Because everyone wants to talk about, quitting
You are so
or how
right. No
TBC.
one is.
Yeah,
I've not heard that from anyone else.
I didn't know until the host said it. I had no idea. Right? I never looked at those. I never looked at those numbers.
Yeah.
Um,
So why is the conversation being driven so differently from the boots on the ground experience?
I don't know. And like, there's more PvPers now than like the arena's a huge success. Like,
Uh
people
huh.
are, trust me, like that's been great.
Yeah.
People are playing TBC and no one wants to say they're playing because everyone wants to say switch to Final Fantasy, screw Blizzard, all that's the sexy thing to say right now, right? No one wants to talk about how TBC is actually doing pretty well
The game is
and has a
good, but it's
yeah,
no longer cool.
correct,
Fuck.
correct,
Brutal.
yep.
Brutal.
So yeah, that's sad, but you know, and this is based on Ironforge.pro, so I don't know how right these numbers are, but
Okay. Yeah. It's something.
it's substantially higher, more raiders now than there was in Next. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. I guess it kind of makes sense. There's more. I'm trying to remember the way the badge system works in TBC. It's easier to catch up to current raid content in TBC than it was in uh, Classic, right?
Yeah, not only do they offer badge gear, but they also nerfed Karazhan and Gruul and Magtheridon because when the new tier came. So when tier 2 came out,
Yeah.
sorry, tier 5 came out,
Yeah.
when SSC and KT, SSC and the I have been launched
Hmm.
last week, with that came a nerf to the previous content. So you can bulldoze through Kara right now and get gear.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
So yeah, and then there's PvP gear you can get, and then there's you know, welfare epics we used to call them back in the day, right? So
Oh
you can get the
yeah.
purple PvP. Yeah, so you can get those. You can get uh badge gear. You can get missing
There's
something like the
the profession gear
Brewfest gear
too.
right now.
That's
Profession
pretty
gear.
decent,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the profession pieces upgrade too. Like
Yeah.
that didn't happen in vanilla. Like that's what I'm saying. On paper, TVC is so much better, but a lot of people still love vanilla because of that charm.
Yeah. It ain't the original, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the most fun that I had, um, so th- when I chose to call it quits with my re-entry into Classic, I started on launch day like everyone else did. I took it kind of slow. I was leveling with a buddy of mine. When we hit 60 after like 6 weeks or whatever, like I said, taking it slow.
Yeah.
We joined a guild that was people who were, roughly our speed. We cleared Molten Core, we killed Onyxia, and then a couple weeks later we killed Ragnaros. And then it was like, do we want to do world PvP and farm Molten Core until Blackwing Lair comes out? Do we really want
Mm.
to do that? And the way me and this guy knew each other is we're coworkers, so we're out doing our lives, and this is like a real deviation from that. And it was like no. The answer was just so easily no.
Mm.
I think what I really got out of that experience so much was there's something brilliant about the leveling experience through the open world of that game that got that didn't really have a chance to continue on because of the philosophy of adding 10 levels and this infeasibility is how can you add that much world every couple of years, like that's actually impossible, like, right?
Right.
But there was something one time unique, non that can't be duplicated about starting in Northshire Abbey, about starting at the camp in Duratar or whatever it is, and starting with no gear and just piecing your character together little bit by little bit, patiently dying on stupid multiple pulls, and then the novelty. It is such the feeling that I had, Mel, was that it was such a well paced experience leveling up. There were a couple of times where it wasn't clear like where to go to level or what the best thing to do is, but for the most part, the continuity was pretty good, and there was just enough pressure placed on me, so I had to think about where to go rather than just following
Mm.
quest markers around the world and have everything be so breadcrumbed that my brain turns off and I watch Netflix. I never really felt compelled to do that when I was leveling. And like I said, I took it slow. I did it the old school way. I'd even use questing to level 45 when I finally just said, screw it. Let's just bolt to 60. You smell 60 and
Yeah,
you just need it. Uh, um,
I understand that.
and I think that was the experience I wanted to relive.
Yeah, I I think that's I think that is enough. I think the journey from 1 to 60 is Vanilla's um uh that's its like best card, right?
Yeah.
That's its ace in the hole.
Hmm.
You cannot compare like that, like what you said, starting off in Shire Abbey or starting off in Duratar, starting off in Teldrassil, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, that experience going to 60, meeting people along the way, doing dungeons with random people, picking up that blue, your first
Yeah.
shoulder piece.
Yeah.
You
Oh, those
that
shoulders.
yeah, that is the vanilla experience. And you so as far as I'm concerned, you did it. You did the vanilla experience. Um, the rest of us are masochists, and we want to we want to kill Ragnaros 1,000 times and get piece together an Atish or
Uh huh.
wait for Thunder Fury to drop, the bindings to drop, and that's okay too. But
Yeah.
the core vanilla experience is the 1 to 60 journey. 100% I agree.
Yeah.
That's it. It's the your Frodo trying to get the ring to wow
Yeah.
uh the mountain. I can't even think. Mordor, right?
Mordor, yes.
Yeah,
I
you're trying
couldn't
to
think
get to
of it
Mordor,
either.
and yeah, and once you get to that Mordor, you went into MC. That's Mordor or whatever. You did your thing. You
Yeah.
killed Ragnaros. That's it. That's the
Time
end
to
of the
fade
game.
into the west.
Yep, and that's totally okay. And I
Yeah.
think that is a lot of people's experience, and that's okay, and that's
Yeah.
great. And some people just start over again and do it again, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And that's why hardcore was so successful and is still successful. Cargo's this
It's
thing.
still going. I see cargoes plowing away, doing more and
Yeah,
interesting new challenges. I think they're gonna try to kill like a raid
yeah.
boss or clear molten core and
So
hardcore. What the
I'm
fuck?
actually, I'm actually, I'm actually part of that. Actually, so
Yes.
our
What are you gonna
plan
play?
is Classic Fresh when it comes out,
Uh
like the new
huh.
Fresh Realm. We're gonna go from 1 to 60. Try to not die. First of all, we're gonna try to not die from 1 to 60.
Uh huh.
Then we're gonna try not die in dungeons at 60, trying to get pieces of gear so we can kill Ragnaros,
Oh my
and then
god.
not die in Molten Core. That's the plan.
That is like the
So
ultimate masochistic journey. I can't imagine how
yeah,
stressful it's gonna be for so
it's
many
gonna be
people.
stressful. I feel bad for Death Camp on BL man a lot because he's my hardcore. Like we're gonna level together, and
Yeah.
because we've done hardcore a few times, and every time he's caused us to die, and it's
Oh
like I'm
no.
like he's not paying attention. Like the last time he saw someone we knew, it was like, "Hey, buddy," and then in the Barrens, if you're playing Sword, if anybody knows, there's like this elite escort, elite patrol. It's Alliance patrol in the
Yeah.
Barrens.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're like on they're mounted. There's like 5 of them, and
Yeah.
he runs
Patrol
right in
unit.
them.
Oh
Yeah,
no.
and he runs right in them. So and he dies. I have to quit because he died. That's how those are
Oh
the rules.
fuck.
And we can't do that. We have to be very very cautious, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna yeah, it's gonna be it is masochistic, like you said, but it's like it's no one's done that. No one's ever done that, and
Yeah.
that's you know when a game's 17 years old or whatever it is now, if there's still something that hasn't been done. You got to try to do it. So
Yeah.
we're gonna try.
Yeah. Still trying to find the undiscovered territory. Still looking
Mm-hmm.
over the horizon.
Yep.
I love it. I actually love
But
it. So
but I'm actually looking forward to it because I love vanilla. So
yeah,
yeah,
and we just skipped over something I think kind of important. Classic Fresh coming back.
yeah. So what they're gonna do is they're gonna launch. They haven't announced a date yet, but they're gonna re-roll servers
Okay.
for vanilla. They're going. I don't know how many they're gonna be. I don't know when it's gonna happen, but they're gonna re-roll starting fresh. And they haven't told us what they're going to change, if anything, yet. So
Mm-hmm.
there's some buzz that there's no world buffs, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But
Interesting. Yeah,
mhm.
I love that idea because the leveling experience is so unique and interesting. I'm asking myself if I'd want to participate. I'm not sure. Um, do you think there's any chance that we could see an approach to Classic Fresh? The other game that I can think of that kind of has these periodic resets is Path of Exile, where they do their leagues.
Mhm.
I don't play
Mhm.
that game. I just kind of watch it from the outside because it's just one of the big successes that's out there. And every single time they do a league, they change something, and then and everyone
Mm.
resets and starts from the beginning, and then it's what everyone loves, but there's something different about it. Um, do you foresee Blizzard just forever restarting WoW Classic
So what's
this way?
interesting is Diablo. By the way, Diablo 3 does a very similar thing. They're called seasons.
Okay, okay,
And they changed something in yeah. So I guess they got that from. I don't know if PoE got that from them or they got it from PoE. I don't know,
yeah, you could be right.
um, but the crazy thing is, and this is 100% true. Private servers for years, the biggest hype for any private server was a refresh, was a fresh realm.
Uh huh.
So they would like Kronos would be like, oh, we're doing the Kronos 2, and people would go insane, right? But not change anything. It's just re-rolling the server.
Uh
So
huh.
Blizzard doesn't have to do a damn thing, and I'm telling you, people are going to go lose their mind
Yeah.
because, like you said, it's that high of. I hate to reduce it to that, but it really is a high, right?
Hmm.
It's that high of starting over again and doing that Frodo journey again.
Hmm.
That's it. That's what people love, and that's why they do it.
Yeah.
Um, Getting another chance at Thunder Fury, getting another chance at Scarab Lord, getting another chance at High Warlord.
Uh huh.
All these things, people say, "Oh, well." it doesn't matter. I didn't get it last time. I have another chance. Um, but yeah, private servers have been doing this for years, and I can tell you, every time a fresh private server came out, people lost their damn minds. Yeah,
In
myself included. Yeah,
in
yeah.
so in that private scene, is that something that was primarily a vanilla refresh thing, or did that happen with other expansions too?
So what's really interesting is that another reason why TBC may not be as hype or uh, private servers have been doing every expansion for a very long time,
Uh,
and by far, vanilla has always been the most populated and most
mhm.
popular. I can't tell you why, but like we're talking, you know, there might be like 10 vanilla private servers out there that are like worth playing, and there may be only one TBC private server. That's it.
Mhm.
Like, um, vanilla has always been the big one. Always in the
Always
private
been the
server scene,
favorite
vanilla is
child. Always had that mystique.
yep,
Huh.
yep. Like I think someone said in chat, it's never been close. Yeah, that's true. It's never been
Yeah.
close. Like it's not even anywhere near as popular as vanilla. TBC, Wrath, even Wrath, people's like the fan favorite. Um,
Yeah. Do you think Wrath Classic will be a thing? Seems like it has to be.
I would have said definitely yes before the allegations. Sorry, I don't know if they're allegations. They're not really allegations anymore. But I would have said 100% yes before that. I
Mm.
think now I'm a little iffy, 75%. I don't know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Oh god, so many directions I can take this. So, Classic being the thing that everyone wants, even though the other expansions are better on paper. Um,
Hmm.
I'm thinking about you and me a little bit here because I almost feel like it's almost like my job to sort of represent the people who love the leveling up experience, but are no longer need the experience of rating, no longer need to get those high prestige things. It's like what is it that I need out of it that's different than what you need out of it? And I'm part of it, I'm sure, is just social circles. Like you were involved in the private server scene, you were creating content to hype it up, you connected with all these people, you have this huge community of people you talk to every day who are all excited about this same place, right?
Right. And I forgot to say, if I didn't have my guild, I'd probably be what you did.
Mm-hmm.
I probably would have ended my journey there because of my guild, because of how close we are, and because of the environment that we built.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why we did all the content, because we worked well together and we jived
Yeah.
together. And if you don't have a guild to play with, and you know you're going to end at that Frodo dropping off the ring. I think that's it. I think that's the end for most people who don't have a good guild, or
Yeah.
who don't want to. I just don't have a good guild, because it's more than that. You
Yeah.
dedicating to it's a positive feedback loop. You have to be dedicated to raid, and then if the guild's good, and it just rolls together, right? Like it's um yeah,
I
yeah,
really feel what you're describing. Partially because I'm looking ahead to next week's release of New World, the
right,
the latest and greatest WoW killer. Um, and
yeah,
I don't have a group of people lined up, and it's the same age old problem of I want to play the game, but I there aren't any groups of players who I'm interested in playing with. Um, yeah, what you just described about having that, I actually was talking with another creator, streamer named Aurora Peachy, who she plays Guild Wars 2 and a bunch of other stuff. And Guild Wars 2 has raids; they're kind of baby compared to World of Warcraft, stuff like that. Very different, for a very different game. But she has a kind of pretty unique raid group that's been together over the years. Parts change out over time and whatever. But they're very casual. Like they wipe for hours on easy bosses. They just chill out. They play whatever they want. They don't metagame at all. It's very unique in that way. It's just like a way for people to spend time together and kind of chill out over the game that they like. And I remember thinking, like, oh man, it's so good to have a group like that. You really want that. Um, I'm not going anywhere with this. I'm just kind of musing because I guess what I should do is ask you about this guild. Um, so, is there something special about this group of people? Tell us about us about them a little bit, about this special group of people that's keeping you engaged.
Cool. Yeah, it's interesting kind of path we all walked together. So we started off in a mega guild.
Uh,
Started off by Cargos, myself, and Def Camp, and Egregious, and Navik, and Ale.
wow.
Pretty much, we have this group of people. It's myself, Navik, Ale, Cargos, Egregious. We have a little group. We're a little. I guess you can call it like a little clique. I don't know.
Okay.
We're like one click in the classic WoW kind of
What
experience. So you have people like Tips
one
Out and
cluster?
S-Fan, and
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
a different click or whatever cluster. And we decided to form our own guild, and it was 5 raid IDs, so 5 40-man raids is what we started,
Wow.
which is huge.
Yeah.
And what happens to everybody in Classic, as we've talked about, is that people quit at different times.
Oh.
Drama happens here. This happens there. Our group was called Sidewinder. All the guilds were named after snakes for some
Okay.
reason. It
Creepy.
wasn't my decision, but it was interesting. Yeah.
Okay.
So the name of the mega guild was Invictus. We were called Sidewinder.
Hmm.
So when all the top 2 raid IDs, what transferred off the server, they were like the ones trying to go for world first and
The real sweats.
all this stuff. Right. We were actually the casual guild, and so when they left, we decided to break off of the mega guild and become our own guild.
Hmm.
And we invited one of the other raid IDs to come with us,
Hmm.
and they did. So we had a 2 raid ID guild for a while. I was the GM of both of those, and I said, "Hey, we got to think of a name. Everyone submit something, and we'll vote on it." Right.
Hmm.
So the one that got the highest votes was the name Eden. I wasn't
Oh,
really happy about it at first because I don't know. It just seemed a little bit overtly religious to me, and I didn't want to. I don't know. Let's not get into that. But I just thought it was a little bit too religious for me personally.
can
Um,
can we
yeah,
pause on the name a little bit, actually?
sure.
Okay. So when I hear Eden, especially
Yeah,
with the greater context of everything we've talked about, because we were talking earlier about that kind of great kind of unstated critique of people that they can't return back to what they were when they played WoW
right,
back in the
right,
day, right? Like they can't go home again. They can't return to the garden, if you're thinking about it in biblical terms. They can't unbite the fruit from the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
right.
And Eden,
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Now, now it to give a spoiler, it has grown on me, and I'll
Okay.
get to that part of the story. So, but at first I was like, man, I don't like this. This is stupid. So the reason why is because I'm like a very how can I
You're a
put
man
this?
of
I love.
science.
No, it's not that. It's actually not
Okay.
that at all.
All right.
I'm not like anti-religion or anything like that, but
Okay. Okay.
I'm very into like orc lore, and I wanted something very horde named,
Oh
right?
yeah.
That's what
You
I
wanted to
wanted.
go
I wanted
Zug
like,
life. I feel
yeah, I wanted
you.
to be like, Thunder Lords or something, something like
Yes.
that, right? Like, so I
Sounds like
was
a
like, man,
biker
this sounds good.
gang.
Yeah. I was like, this sounds kind of weak, but okay. People voted
Uh,
for it, fine. So we took on the name Eden, and we were 2 raid IDs. I was the GM in both of them, but I was raiding with one, so it was kind of like weird because I was more preferential with my group than the other group.
mm,
So they decided to move on to their own, which was fine. That was great because I was like, please, like this makes my life 10 times easier. Like you guys are welcome to go. So there was no bad blood or anything. They just kind of split
mhm,
off. So now we were 1 raid ID finally, on Scarum, and at this time we were Ragnaros was great. Now Phase 2 comes out, the World PvP comes out, all the Alliance leave,
mm.
and we found ourselves kind of in a crappy spot, and we were like, man, should we transfer? Should we? And the people, and so all these selective forces. I'm going to use so I studied evolution, right? So
Okay.
all these selective forces come on,
Mhm.
and it wipes off. I'm not saying the weak people, just the people who didn't want to deal with it, right? Like they didn't want to deal with not having alliance. They didn't want to deal with, getting ganked or whatever, or anything you can think of. They didn't
People who
world
weren't
buffs. They
well
didn't want.
adapted to the environment.
Correct. It kind of just people kept slogging off, and we re-recruited different people, and we built this kind of. I don't know. And the reason why the name Eden has grown on me is
Mhm.
because we found it. Whatever that is in between casual and hardcore, we found it, and
Oof.
that's why I think the name's Eden is so fitting now because we are that place in between those two extremes. And I say the name with pride now. I didn't before, but now I do, is because I really feel like we've created an Eden where players can come and parse,
Mhm.
but they don't have to worry about having seven alts or like the exact right
Mm.
professions, or they can still do well, and we still try to create an environment where people can play the way they want to play and pump, but we don't tell them to do all the crazy stuff. So that's the
Mhm.
kind of environment that we've always strived for, and we've built that. It took us a long time and a lot of trial and error and a lot of sleepless nights trying to like figure out what we're going to do. And through that adversity and through those selective bouts, we've formed real friendships within those people, and we've grown to trust each other. And that's kind of
Mhm.
the why I love playing with those guys. And if it wasn't
Cool.
for playing with my guild, I don't think I'd be playing right now, to be honest. I really don't. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the key for me, is I needed a place where I felt like I don't know, I could thrive and be the best player I could be, or else what I would do is I would, like you said, what you did,
Mhm.
play to the end and that's it, or maybe re-roll another character and do that over again, whatever. But I found that happy place for myself, and that's my guild. So that's
Yeah. That's a beautiful
why
thing.
I like the name now. Yeah,
It's a beautiful thing to
yeah.
find and an even more beautiful thing to create. So kudos to you. That's the
Thanks.
thing that
It's just me, but yeah, it's a lot of people to help out. But yeah,
that's awesome,
yeah,
man. That's the thing that all of us, all of us folks I feel like our age who remember being sweaty over video games want, right? You
yeah.
want you want you want to have a balance because you want to sweat, but you just can't go like you used to go. You can't put in a
Mm.
12-hour days. You can't stay up till 3 a.m., 5 nights in a row when a new raid wing comes out. You can't do that. So that's amazing. What was the transition like from Nax to TBC in Tier 4? Did you have to, because the raid size shrunk from 40 to 25 at that time, right?
That was actually the most challenging time for us.
Mm.
And I said that, and I kind of said that to the guys, to our officers. I'm like, listen, Nax was tough. Recruiting was tough. All these things that we went through in vanilla were tough. This is going to be the hardest challenge. And we had to have some, unfortunately, had to have some uncomfortable conversations with some people.
That
Um,
sucks.
yeah, and it wasn't like there was only one instance where it was like the person was just not a good fit. Like it was a personality wise, it just wasn't
Mhm.
working out. They are a great person. I really I respect this person very much. I think that she's a great player, but it was just wasn't working out with the guild. It just
Mhm.
people in general just didn't they weren't jiving. Other than that, we had to have conversation with people like we don't have a spot for you. That was the hardest one. Was like we want to play with you, but we don't have a spot for you.
That's rough.
Um, yeah, and so the raid leads, Al and Navik, they're so good at being calm in situations like that because they're like, let's go into TBC with more people than we think we need. And I
Mhm.
guarantee you, by the time we start raiding, people are going to be gone. And they were absolutely right. Like, not because they left or they were mad, just kind of fizzled away.
That's the way it goes.
So we went into TBC with more than we thought we needed, and thank God we did because I don't know we probably wouldn't be raiding right now if we didn't do that. So
Mhm.
it was like I said, all the officers have their special kind of thing they do, and I've been very selective of kind of who I want in certain positions, and you know they do their job very well, and we're well a machine, and so yeah, I'm really proud of my guild, and I'm really proud of who in the officer corps and the raiders, but the officer corps specifically because they're so everyone's good at a certain thing, and I made sure I didn't put people that would echo chamber each other. I made sure I put people that would debate each other. I like that. I like
There,
no, not like yeah.
tell me a little bit about that. You don't have to use any names if you want, but that sounds very interesting.
Well, I don't like.
Because
I think what one of the worst things you can do when you build a team is have everyone that's going to agree with one person. Because then you have no feedback. Otherwise, you have no like kind of alternative hypotheses of how something's going to work.
mm-hmm.
So nobody, it never comes to like anger or hate, or no one yells at each other. But it's like someone X says this, Y says, I don't agree with you. We should do this, and then we have a conversation
And then
about
you
it, and
can
then we
talk
come up
about
with
it.
it.
Yeah.
Right, right.
Yeah, you need a little bit of agitation in order to open up the solution space. Makes sense.
Correct. That's exactly what I wanted, and that's what we're getting. And you know, there's days where people get on each other's nerves. Like, I can't believe X said that, you know, but then by the next day they're friends again. Or not friends, not like they're not friends before that, but they get into a little bit of a heated debate.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of sit back and laugh because I knew that was going to happen. but
Mm.
but at the end of it, we've learned something when we haven't kind of echo chamber our way into something that's not the right way to do something. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, I try to be the last person to talk
Okay.
because I like hearing everyone's kind of sides on things before I say anything. Plus, they have a lot more experience than I do with the people I put in the raid lead positions have done this on private servers, so they know what they're talking about more than I do. So because I have never done Tempest Keep ever.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Sign of a good leader to trust the people that to trust your people.
you have to. Yeah, otherwise
Yeah.
I don't know how other leaders do it because like I just feel like it takes a village to raise a child. It
Mm.
takes a village to run a guild.
To
It's
kill a
not a one
boss.
person show. Yeah, neither kill a boss. I like that. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Well, I can tell that you've put a huge amount of thought and energy into this community. It makes total sense to me how you couldn't just how choosing to leave behind that community is in some ways a much bigger decision than what you think about the game or what you think about doing content. It has its own life right now.
It's like making the decision to stop making content was easy
Hmm.
compared to if I had to decide to stop playing with my friends. Like that
Yeah.
would be the hard. That's harder. 100% harder. So I think that's why people were kind of like, "Oh, why didn't Melderon just quit altogether?" Like all the other, like, "Oh, how could you?" I think some people in the comments of that video were like, "Oh, you're just chilling for him or whatever." And I'm like, it's much more complicated than that. Like, first of all, I know some of the devs there,
Hmm.
um, and I know they try hard. I know that they get stopped at every turn. I know that they, um, I was lucky enough to be able to help them during the beta and be like,
Hmm.
"Hey, listen, this is bugged. This is, I had a private channel with some of the developers, and I'm okay saying that. I don't care. I mean, it doesn't really, nothing's going to happen to me. You know what I mean? So, but some of the developers reached out. Um, I can say this now because he's no longer there. Omar Gonzalez and I had a little bit of a personal back and forth when the game
Okay.
came out. And then he was nice enough to give me access to other developers when he left.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
those devs and I and a couple other people had a little private channel. We talked about in Discord, and we talked about us players were very vehemently opposed things like the cash shop, but they said
Mm.
it's not our. We can't do anything about that,
Out
right?
of
But
their
that's already been
hands.
decided. Yeah. So
What was
and
in
then
their
it's
hands? How did those talks go? I mean, don't tell me anything you're not
well,
comfortable with, but I'm finding myself very curious.
I mean, it was very quick. Basically, it was like, hey, most of us knew had the wherewithal to be like, hey, we know this isn't your decision, but this is how we feel about this. And they said, noted. Let's talk about the game. They're very good at deflecting. Deflecting is a negative word. They're very good at engineering the conversation in a constructive pipeline because they
Hmm.
wanted our feedback on how to make the game better, right?
Hmm.
Not bitch and complain about what's stuff that they can't control.
Yeah.
So it was quick. It was very quick and be like, this is, and then they say I can't do anything about that. Let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So we talk about like this, and I would say like this is bugged. This is providing too much attack power or something, and they would say okay, thanks, and they would say yeah, we looked at the reference client. You're right. That's been changed.
Sure, sure. Yeah. So just being focused on stuff
Yeah,
they actually can work on, that they actually can
correct.
make an impact. That makes
Yeah, and they're
sense.
very dedicated and hardworking people. And that's why I said in that video, I said, you can choose to stop playing. That's totally your prerogative.
Mhm.
For me, the way I'd like to make a difference is stop making content, because that is a way for me to kind of lessen my. I can still pay my money to my $15 a month and support the company because I do want to support those people,
Mhm.
but I can stop providing them free advertisement. That was my kind of
Your accommodation. Mhm.
in the middle. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Um, the conversation I feel like around, to boycott or not to boycott has kind of died down a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, but I've watched a few. There are a few points of view I find pretty particularly interesting. What you just shared right now, it reflects a little bit of some commentary I heard from a developer and YouTuber named Alana Pierce. I don't know if you know who she is, but
No.
she essentially did this video where she explained that um, it's something like Blizzard developers don't want you to boycott Blizzard, something like that. I can't remember what it was exactly.
Hmm.
Um, and she just talked about how because she has connections throughout the industry, and she's spoken with people who work at Blizzard, people who were one of the women at Blizzard, who are the people who have been gotten really really hurt by everything that's been going on in the background in the shadows, and people who have been hurt are coming out and saying, yeah, like we know it sucks, but don't boycott us. Like I still work here. I still
Yeah.
depend on this paycheck. I still depend on this career. And if you boycott what we're making because you don't want them to do this crappy stuff internally, then it's going to have secondary consequences, not just to the people who perpetrated the problem, but people who have already suffered. You're doubling down on the suffering for some of those people,
Yeah.
um, which I thought was particularly well stated. And it creates this kind of a very nuanced situation, especially for someone who really loves playing these games. Where's the middle path between if if you're a total outsider, it's very easy to just say boycott it because you don't have to change your behavior. You just got to
Exactly.
change your profile picture or make a loud tweet. Who cares what? I mean, if that's what someone's doing, it's hard to take them very seriously. The people who are really putting I like to say their money where their mouth is, say their energy where their mouth is. Um, it's a little bit different. Uh, and it's reflective of all right, that's going to go to really crazy territory. I'm not going to take it there. But I really appreciate you sharing how you've decided to kind of be sensitive to both of the boundary conditions. So completely ignoring everything that's going on and just doing what you want to do, what you want to do as an individual, versus going hardcore in the other direction and doing and kind of going with this society, this like zeitgeist in the
Yeah.
culture where there's this big problem and making totally subsuming your individual identity to kind of the group. It's a tough one.
It was, and I'll be honest. Like I said in the video, the decision to stop making content wasn't just because of that. It was actually just the icing on the
Yeah,
cake, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
Um, and I think that in this day and age, it's almost laughable that the things happened at Blizzard, because it's just like, how could anyone operate that way? I don't
It
know.
is.
Um,
It is
yeah,
crazy to read the anecdotes. It's like
I just don't like, don't
mind
people have
blowing.
mothers and grandmothers, and like, don't people have, like, I mean, I just don't. Why would you treat a woman any less than you would treat anybody? I just don't understand it. Like, if someone did that to my, if I don't know, I was raised, maybe because I was raised by my mom. I don't know, maybe that's why. But
Yeah.
like, man, I just don't
Like, do
understand
those men
people.
have
Yeah,
daughters?
exactly, that too. Like, don't you look at your daughter and say, "Man, I hope nothing bad happens to her," and then you do something
Hope
like
she doesn't
shitty
work at
like
my
that? I just,
company. Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah. But anyway,
yeah.
like, but there are good people there, and that's what I said in the video. Like, there are good people there, and like, getting to know them over the last year. Nothing personal. It's a very matter of fact conversations, but it's just,
It's still a
um,
connection, though. There's something.
yeah, yeah, they care.
Matters.
Let's put it that way. They gave a shit, and that's the point that I was trying to drive home, is that there are people that care, and there are
Hmm.
people that do give a crap, and those are the people that deserve to keep their jobs, right? And like you said, um, it's like that thing with Chick-fil-A that happened a few years, maybe it was more than a few years back, about the owner was some anti gay and lesbian talk he was
Oh,
having. It's
right.
yeah, and it's like, yeah, that's terrible. Um, and yeah, people can ban Chick-fil-A, right? That's an option. You can definitely
Mhm.
do that. But I like immediately the first thing that pops into my head whenever I think about banning anything is like people work at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
People pay their bills
Yeah.
because they work at Chick-fil-A.
People
What
who
are they going to
are
do for a
gay,
job if they get fired?
LGBT work at Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, I mean, you could. And I don't judge anyone for banning, like for not going there anymore or anything like that. But I still think to myself, like, man, like you're just okay with those people getting like not having jobs. Like that's the part that I can't.
Mhm.
It's the small. It's always little people get hurt in things like this, right?
Yeah.
It's always
Yeah.
it's always the little people get hurt.
I
Bobby
think
Kotick's not going to get hurt if you stop playing Blizzard. He's a billionaire no matter what, right? But
oh, yeah.
Joe
Yeah.
Joe Schmo in accounting might not be able to get a job after he gets let go.
Yes.
So
It's the little people that get hurt. I think that is
yeah,
very sage. And, you know, I think I was sort of accusing earlier of so much of the conversation around. So here's a little bit of a weird hypothesis. I kind of started talking about it earlier. It's related to what you're saying. I hope it is. We'll see. Uh, but I was going to talk about how you and I were of a certain age when we started engaging in the world of Warcraft. We were college age. A lot of people who are really leaders in the content community and the kind of a public facing scene of gamers. I have observed that they're like 7, 8, 9 years younger than us. It seems people who were middle school teenagers around the time that the game came out, different part of their life when it started, and perhaps more importantly, different part of their life when Classic WoW began to manifest in their early 20s. The same age when Classic WoW was coming around that you and I were in when original WoW came out. And people who are as their first exposure to the world, like maybe their first job is streaming. Maybe their first job is having a YouTube channel. Maybe it's not their first job, but maybe it's among their first jobs. It's different when you approach these problems after you've been out in the world supporting yourself and perhaps a significant other, perhaps starting a family. You have a different view of the world. What you just said about how it's always the little people that get hurt. That's a perspective that's kind of hard to have if you haven't lived through that kind of a
mm,
situation. And it's not a matter of being smart. It's a matter of just raw experience. What have you seen? Um, and that's one of the main reasons I feel like I really said to myself, I really got to talk to Melderon. I really got to talk to him because uh, there's a lot more going on, I think, than those ascendant voices would lead us to believe. Um, and those ascendant voices who are young adults who are making their first foray into the world of adulthood by trying to recapture being a young child. There is
yeah,
something I think emblematic about that, about what we see in the community discourse. And that's one of the main things that encourages me to get off of my 9 to 5 and show up and do this stuff. Because I think that there need to be more voices about
yeah.
what's happening. There needs to, and um, I want. I'm on the one hand, I thought that your choosing to end doing content it was very interesting, and it made me really want to talk to you. And I was grateful to have an excuse to talk to you again. But on the other hand, it kind of sucks because you're one of the people who I really want to hear from, who have this different perspective. And do you think that kind of line of and okay, connecting that back to, I think I've lost what I was connecting it back to, but hopefully what I've said rang was somehow relevant for you. What do you think about what I just said?
Yeah. I really appreciate what you said, and I thank you for that. I've always tried to be a little bit different when it comes to content because I feel like I don't know. I just like to explore unexplored territory, and whether it was the Dev talks we did with Def Camp or the the classic WoW etiquette guide or the shaman guides that are 3 hours long. I really wanted to kind of dive into things that I wanted to do. Number one, and
Mhm.
I wanted to dive into things that are a little bit off the not kind of off the beaten path. And I really want to echo what you said about experiencing life. I didn't nothing I did in life came easy to me. Like I wasn't some math whiz and computer science whiz and decided to become a scientist.
Uh-huh.
I was a criminal justice major. Worked as a security and surveillance officer at a casino for a while.
Okay.
Went back to school. Got my master's degree after like 4 years. I had to take all these prereqs that I didn't have. Um, you know, I'm not like one of those straight arrow kind of guys. I never had that. Maybe it's just because I'm not trying to be like I say I'm a victim or anything, but like I just either
Your path went back and forth a bit. You had a real
always
journey.
has.
It
Yeah,
wasn't just shooting star straight to where you are. You
yeah.
had some
And I think
setbacks, you had
because of
some
that,
course corrections.
I try to see things from every perspective possible. And I think that when I hear to myself, "You're going to boycott this or ban that or never do this again," or I think about everybody involved, and I try to think about how I would feel if I was there, and I try to think about even if we look back at empires and two empires fought each other or two kingdoms fought each other, at the end of the day, the two kings or queens would still be fine, right? I mean,
Mhm.
usually, but the people, the massive amount of people that would die fighting these wars for people they never even met.
Mhm.
Um, and I just think like the cancel culture, like Twitter, it's
Mhm.
so sickening, man. I don't go on them, so I don't really know. But the few images I get of them are always so just everyone's so high and mighty all the time. Everyone's so like, how could you do this or how could you do that? I'm like, have you ever made a mistake in your life, like ever? And I'm not saying we should. I'm not saying that we should forgive what happened
Mhm.
at Blizzard and say, oh, that was just a mistake there, Johnny, or whatever his name was. Uh,
Mhm.
you shouldn't have been. That's okay. Go back to work. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like in general, people are so cold to each other
Yeah.
um, because the internet has allowed us to just become these autonomous, like uh, um, autonomous and anonymous beings that we don't. We just kind
Mhm.
of interact in a way that's not supposed. It's not human nature, and I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I try to be more personal with people and try to be more. Uh, I
Yeah.
just try to think about how people feel and stuff. Yeah.
Word, man. Right to my heart. Um, I've been getting into this dude named Marshall McLuhan. He was a media philosopher who kind of predicted the internet 30 years before it happened. He would say that being on the medium of television, if you're there, you become a discarnate being who tends to merge your identity with others at the speed of light. And I don't know exactly what that means, but it sounds relevant to what you're saying.
It's exactly that's exactly how I see the world now. It's what you just said. If you could say that one more time, maybe. But like,
Uh,
if you are um, the okay, the great philosophers of whatever of the Greeks and the Romans and whoever else,
sure.
ancient Africa,
Antiquity.
all these great philosophers,
Okay.
um, they would have conversations with each other, right? They would be in the same room. They would debate and talk and eat and
Yeah.
come back the next day and do it again. You can't do that on the internet.
Yeah.
Especially something like Twitter that's like posts, like it's just posts of time, these
Mhm.
snapshots of time that people are reading and that isn't how relationships are built and made. That isn't how people get to know each other, and that isn't how people come to respect each other. And that's why nobody respects each other because all they see are these moments in time that people say something and react to it, and
Mhm.
it's just fucking sickening. Man. I'm sorry to curse,
It
but it's
is.
just
Please do. I don't care.
it's like
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I don't know. And the world just keeps going in that direction, and I just feel so I just feel so disjointed from it sometimes, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Yeah,
and it's inescapable because I feel like people themselves have become more withdrawn, and COVID has not helped. So like COVID
yeah.
and all these things kind of work synergistically and bring us all closer, away from each other. Excuse me, not closer, but away from each other.
Mhm.
Um, and I just think that's really bad. And whatever this author is, if you can maybe send me the link or say his name again, that
I'll show you
that
some stuff. Yeah.
is exactly what happened. What he said. Yeah.
Marshall McLuhan is his name. Um, I actually did a whole talk on my channel earlier this week about him. Um, fascinating dude. I think very relevant to our times, especially for gamers.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
And another thing, sorry, real quick, another
no,
thing
continue.
gamers do that drives me nuts is that it's not just gamers, but the whole Twitch kind of the meme culture, the Twitch is that
Uh,
everyone puts everyone in bins, right?
mhm.
You're a Chad, or you're a Virgin, or you're a this, or you're well, I can't even think of all the names, but
Yeah,
you fall into some bin. Everyone
and
falls into
Andy,
a bin,
uh,
right? And Andy,
classic Andy. Yeah,
right. So what I think the whole meme culture does is you take an individual, you look at something about them, and you put them in a bin, right?
hmm,
And then there's only like what 100 bins or 50 bins,
sure,
and
sure.
it reduces our complexity and our personality so much.
Hmm.
And I just, and even with the memes, like like the Pepe memes and everything, like there's a designed response to everything almost.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I just think that's very strange.
It is
I don't know. I
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Sorry, I just had to interject with that one thing because it's something that I think about a lot when I watch streams. Is that everyone gets put in a bin, and there's a pre-designed response to almost everything. And I
yeah.
feel like that's just very
It's
strange.
almost like we're all playing a part, and all being, and people we interact with are always recasting us in a way. And
Hmm.
if we don't act the role that we've been cast in, we tend to get criticized. Um,
For instance, I'm a boomer because I am questioning the current regime of thought, right? So I'm a boomer. I
yeah,
have to be, right? Yeah,
yeah. Oh, totally, totally. I've
yeah,
firmly accepted the label of gaming boomer. Any kind of
yeah,
gaming circle I enter, it's like, oh, I realize I'm a boomer when I talk to these people. Like it's a
yeah.
totally different world. Um, I the more I talk to people, the longer I do the podcast and kind of go on this kind of journey of meaning and manifestation, the more I kind of am convinced of the idea that the most complicated thing in the world is an individual person, one person.
Mm,
People become less complicated the more of them there are. That's why a mob is such a terrible thing, right?
yeah.
That's why a mob is the most inhuman, awful thing, is because people, their identities get lost, and I think that kind of happens online very easily. It-
Yes.
and we're all still getting used to this technology. We don't know how to use it yet. It's a dramatic thing that's it's people are going to be studying it for the next 1,000 years. The effect that it will have had on our culture. It's hard to imagine anything more transformative than perhaps like general AI, um,
Yeah.
or figuring out immortality. Um, like
Yeah.
those
That would be
like
another huge leap. Those things would be huge leaps. You're right.
but
And
shy of
we
that.
evolve. Yeah, we evolve very slowly as biological systems, right? And
Hmm.
our brains, our brain capacity has allowed for our environment to change drastically. When usually that takes thousands of years.
Hmm. Hmm.
And by environment, I mean the internet
Yeah,
is the new environment. Yeah.
yeah, and it's a rough world. It's getting harder and harder to adapt to in a way, but it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
No.
And I don't want to go I don't want to generalize too much. I want to keep this a little bit more specific. But I share your frustration about kind of meme culture and the desire to kind of categorize people. I mean, I think this kind of phenomenon has always kind of existed. It's always been something that happens with humans in groups, but this is the most potent weapon that's ever been wielded by such a group, the internet, and it's just getting more and more so as this arms race to build these platforms that keep people connected gets more and more and more effective. Um, So I try to have sympathy with the people who are engaging in that way, who seem to be maybe like the visceral sense I have is that they're turning their brain off. They're just like kind of signaling their identity to the group of people they want to be accepted by. That's what's happening here. And if they do it in the right way, they're accepted. And maybe if they do it well enough, they'll become, Peter Pan of the Lost Boys, living in Never Never Land. But that speaks to a desire to be needed. That speaks to a desire to have a tribe, to be able to belong to something bigger than yourself. And at least in the Western world, where we're kind of, especially in the United States, where we're trying to figure out what the next step looks like if it's not, uh, improving upon. Oh, how should I put this? I think that the goal of each generation of human beings, as long as we're mortal anyway, should be to leave things better for the next. And it's in a lot of ways, I think people are looking at the generation of our parents, the baby boomers, and saying they done fucked up. And our ability to identify those things and single them out is greater than it ever was, and we can understand that there's a huge housing problem, at least relative to income, and people are getting left behind in a way that the idea of getting a summer job to support your way through college, that old meme, stuff like that.
Mm.
It's dramatically difficult to adapt in the world, and the more connected you are with people around you, the more likely you are to be able to adapt. I read this Reddit thread. Actually, was it this morning or last night? It was someone posted on Life Pro Tips. It was something like, remember that when someone who's successful shares their life story, don't forget that most successful people make up a story about how their hard work earned their success and forget about the environmental systems and the connections and all the luck they had along the way. Once people get successful, they rationalize their success as being something that they created, as opposed to being something that they kind of arrived to, that they didn't entirely engineer. And there's this great discussion that went on about this whole phenomenon of how important it is to have connections and how undersold the social networks that people who have some kind of generational power or wealth arrive to without ever having to create for themselves. It isn't just the wealth; it's the connectivity, it's the stability. For me, I grew up with a computer in my house. If I didn't grow up with a computer in my house, I wouldn't have a career. I wouldn't be here doing this. I don't know what the fuck I'd be doing because college was a disaster for me. I was able to get a career in tech because tech jobs were everywhere when I was looking, about a decade ago, and because I grew up with a computer. I earned very little of that.
I mean, even me. I mean, it's like I have a doctorate, but like the road to that was, like I said before, it was just not. It's second semester of college. I think I had a D average, or second year of college, I had a D average. Partied a little bit too hardy and didn't want to go to class and all that dumb stuff. I was an idiot, and I got it together. My last 2 years somehow got up to a B average, but I was a criminal justice major, and I started working in casinos and stuff. And then a chance meeting. Mm-hmm. My grandmom was at a wedding or a funeral, I can't remember which, and ran into this lady who was married to the head of security at this university, and said, "Oh, my grandson really hates where he's working. He really use a job." She said, "Oh, tell him to send his resume to my husband." So I sent the resume over. I got a job at the university, and I got to go back to school for free. Right? If it wasn't for that, meeting my grandmom and this guy's wife, I don't know where I'd be right now. Right? So, because that got me on the road to get myself where I wanted to go. That got me on the road to start taking different classes and rethinking what I wanted to do with my life. And I was older and had more experience, and wasn't the partying was out of my system, you know. So I don't know where I'd be today if it wasn't for that meeting with my grandma and that lady.
Mhm.
No idea, right? So similar.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I worked my ass off, but after that, but I had a lot of good luck along the way. A lot of good luck, and you know that's why I said very early on I'm not anti-religious, because I do believe that there's I don't know. I'm not saying there's a God, but I'm saying there's something going on. I tend to be a little more spiritual
Yeah.
nowadays because I think to myself like, you know, I don't know if it's karma, I don't know if it's fate, I don't know what it
Mhm.
is. I'm agnostic, but uh, you know, there's something going on, and
Yeah.
I just try to live my life as a good person, and that's it. That's all. What else am I going to do? I try to treat others the way I'd like to be treated, follow the golden rule, um, and that's it. And try to
Yeah.
be good.
Live like there's something greater
Yeah,
than you out there.
yeah. So what's that? What's that? It's almost similar to that. There's that philosopher that said, you know, you might as well believe in God because if there is one, it's something Gambit. I forget what it's called.
Huh.
You believe in something because if it is there, then you'll have salvation. If it's not, you didn't lose anything, right? It's not that. I'm not saying that's why I
Pascal's
have
wager?
spirituality. Pascal's wager. That's it.
I've never heard that before. I like that.
Yeah, Pascal's wager.
Kind of
It's
cynical,
similar to
but
that, but I have experienced some things in my life that kind of made me double think things and be like,
uh,
you know,
maybe you don't know what's going on. Maybe there is something a
yeah,
little weird out there.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, me too, brother.
yeah.
I really appreciate that too. I think that that's something that also happens to us aging gamers is we have to leave our I don't know like there's some kind of stereotype for me like about being a gamer from like the 90s and 2000s where like you're surrounded by people who are like are atheists or think they're atheists like edgy
Mhm.
like technology nerds like there was a certain it was much more of a niche back then compared to now. It's much more of a bigger scene. Uh, I'm actually seeing and not that it's related, but I'm seeing Rex Soloid here in the chat saying that's kind of depressing to hear as a directionless young dude. I think responding to you talking about the sheer chance of you finding what you found. I wonder if you want to respond to that at all. Like,
Yeah.
how would you speak to a directionless young person from with the perspective you have, especially like a directionless young gamer?
It's almost like I feel like, you know, one of those father son, you know, kind of things, or like an old guy talking to a young person, be like, back
Uh
in my,
huh.
you know, I
Yeah.
don't want to give anyone advice because I feel like that's just, but I will say that, like, you're the most important thing in the world, right? Um, treat yourself with love and treat yourself with uh, respect, and good things will come to you. That's all I can say
I
because
like that.
I didn't do that when I was younger. I wish I loved myself more or treated myself with more respect when I was younger because I think that's the road to happiness, right? Doesn't I can't I'm not going to tell you to study hard. I'm not going to tell you to, you know, uh, take every opportunity that comes to you. But I will tell you, if you love yourself and if you respect yourself, everything else will come.
What is
Yeah,
loving
and
yourself
I'm
and
still working on that today,
yeah, it's a
of
lifelong
course. Yeah,
project.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
does loving yourself and respecting yourself look like to you?
Um, for me, I guess it's trying to eat healthy. That's always been
Okay.
hard for me.
Mhm.
Uh, trying to um exercise more, keep it clear because I used to exercise a lot. I used to
Take your
be a lot
body
more.
seriously. Yeah, go ahead.
I used to be in a lot better shape than I am right now, and I think that that's when I thought the clearest as well.
Yeah.
There's a correlation between mind and body, very strong. Uh, I think it's just general loving yourself to me means being able to look yourself in the mirror and being like, you know, you're worth it. You know,
Not bad.
you're yeah, you know what I mean, like something like that.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not saying you have to go like jump off a cliff and jump off a cliff, like, cliff dive or go on an airplane and do a sky jump. I'm not saying you have to do anything crazy. I'm just saying you have to be able to be comfortable in your own skin.
Mhm.
and be confident of who you are. And I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I can't tell you this is how it's done, but I can
Mhm.
tell you that if you love and respect yourself, you'll make the right decisions for yourself. I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah.
Um,
It's almost like
as long as, yeah,
being able to look yourself in the mirror and, like, say, "I like X about myself." Like, pick something about
yeah,
yourself and just say, "I like this about me. I
yeah.
think I'm pretty great."
It's something I learned through therapy. I've been in therapy many years, and it's something that I had no problem telling people. Like um, you know, went through some hard stuff in my life. Like we talked about my brother and
Yeah,
some
yeah.
other things as well. And I realized that I needed some I needed some therapy. And I'll tell you what, man, is you know, it works. It takes
Mhm.
time and it takes dedication, but it's a road to a healthier lifestyle for sure. And I think that's I'm not saying that everyone should. I'm not saying you need. I'm not saying anyone needs therapy. I'm just saying that it helped me realize that I had issues with, as growing up as a kid, I had issues with self-respect,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I don't know why. Like my parents were great people. Um, I was never disrespected as a kid, but for some reason I had. It was hard for me.
Hmm.
Um,
Mhm.
so everyone's got something, and I think just getting to the root cause of whatever ails you, whatever it may be, that's the key to success. Because success really, what is it really? Is it having all the money in the world? Success is being happy. At least that's for me.
Okay.
To to me, true success is being happy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
everything else is superfluous. Everything else can go any day. Your life can go any day. But hey, I'll tell you what, if that last day on Earth, if you're happy, you
Yeah.
went out in a good way.
Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
there are a couple things you said I wanna add sprinkle on some thoughts to and see what you think.
sure.
Um, so you're talking about, like, whether to, take every single opportunity and things coming your way. Um, the thought I kinda have there is that, like, lesson learned for me is, you know, every single thing you do in life is kind of a risk.
Mhm.
And it can be very hard to get, especially if you spend a lot of time playing video games like I have, to get used to the idea that putting yourself out there has a very uncertain result of return. Um, it's like being comfortable with shooting out 100 resumes, 100 job applications. Like, it feels miserable until you get the one that sticks and then starts your career. And then it's like, oh, yeah, I did that. That was, no problem. But
Yeah.
actually, in the moment, it felt shitty. But I don't really want to advocate for necessarily doing something like that. It's more like I just think that there's this substrate of reality about the way humans connect, where doors are always opening for various things, for various people in various places. People always need other people for something. It could be a job, it could be a friend, it could be a lover, it could be anything. And people are always trying to form those connections, see where they are. And you never get to the best way to find success is to have a lot of those kinds of experiences where you can connect with someone, get out into the world, get out and do something, and try to work on yourself. What you were saying, I think, as well, is something very similar. I don't want to sound too preachy, too like I'm just giving advice. It's more just like maybe I can try to give a specific anecdote. So, this podcast is kind of an example for me of me trying to work on myself. The biggest problem that I had when I started it, that I was trying to respond to, is the fact that after 20 years of playing games online, I had lost the signal. Like, I didn't know why I was doing it anymore. I couldn't find anything that I was looking for, and I wasn't even aware of what I was looking for. It's like I'd never tasted food before, but I was hungry. Like, what am I
Mm.
trying to do here? I don't know, but I need something. Um, and so starting the podcast, getting into the habit of having to setting an expectation that I'm going to try something, and then I learned that I had ADHD and the power of making a schedule, and then that helped me learn something about myself. Oh, if I'm going to actually pursue something long term, I need to integrate it into a schedule. And then the podcast, it's always been a small thing. I don't make choices with the podcast that are going to get me the maximum possible numbers. Instead, I make a choice that has the maximum possible return signal to me, to what I'm interested in contending with at the time. That's why the prompt of you leaving content creation behind was so glittering to me. I feel like there's so much you and I can connect over with that thing, with our kind of, same age, similar experiences.
Mhm.
And from having to show up and talk to people, and then at the start of this year, I started doing my some solo content, so kind of presenting my own thoughts, and having to do that, I have transformed myself along the way and learned a lot about myself and learned a lot about the world in return. And the idea is not, and I've had moments of frustration of feeling like, where is this going? It's not taking off anywhere near as fast as I would have liked, but it is giving me something back. And I think that the answer to that question that kind of calms me down is that yes, this is going slow, but what I'm doing is I'm stacking the deck in my favor, right? I'm stacking the deck in my favor so that when the right connection comes, I'm in a position to do something with it. That I'm the guy who someone looks to.
Hmm.
I was very lucky earlier this year to have a few developers from a game called Guild Wars 2. One of the big MMOs that's out there, agree to talk to me on the podcast, which is awesome. I talked
Really
with a few
cool.
folks from the narrative team, the studio narrative director and the associate director. So like not just anybody, but like the guys in charge. And I talked to a designer who works on raid content. And then they started their marketing push for the next expansion. They basically said, you know what? We don't really got time for you anymore. And that kind of sucked, right? I mean, I get it, but it also kind of sucked. I was hoping to continue that relationship. But you know what? What deck have I stacked in my favor by knocking on that door, answering the question? I don't know exactly. You don't know what doors are going to open for you in the future that result from something you're doing right now that doesn't seem like it's going anywhere. And the best thing you can follow is what's inside of you.
Yeah, I
That's something
agree.
more preachy than I wanted it to, but
I think that's great. I think it's a
something.
great answer to this question because um, my whole theory behind making content has always been what do I want to see and what do I want to do, and I
Yeah.
followed those rules. I didn't want to go down a set path,
Hmm.
and I think that's another great aspect of you know um, if you're looking for direction in life is just do what makes you happy. Don't do what other people expect you to do. The reason I was a criminal justice major when I first started college is because I have cops in my family and they wanted me to be a cop,
Hmm.
not because I wanted to be a cop. Um, and I'm really glad I'm not a cop because I did some ride-alongs and stuff, and that job is just not for me.
It's a
It's
rough
not.
fucking job.
Yeah, yeah. It's just like I also just feel like there's no. It's a job where there's no like this. I feel like the environment you may help someone that day, but the environment is non-changing.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
always the same amount of crime, always the same amount of drug abuse, always the same amount of, to me that's a very hard.
Yeah.
I have to
Like
see
you're fighting an
some kind
uphill
of like,
battle against the world.
yeah, yeah, and for me, like in science, I see when I produce something that it something new to the scientific
Yeah.
community, right?
Yeah.
Something,
That's what all of
um,
science is, right? You're standing on the
yeah,
shoulders of people who already figured shit out before you, and you're trying to say, what is the next thing? How are we going to add to this? Makes
yeah,
sense,
exactly,
man.
yeah. That's why I like science so much. So yeah, man, it's a question that everyone's asked probably their whole life since the history of time. What do I do with my life, and where
Yeah.
do I go? And um, I think the key is just be true to yourself. Like I think we've agreed on that. Like that's the yeah.
Yeah. Be true to yourself and figure out who the fuck yourself is. You got to go out and deal with the world. It's tough. It's tough.
Yep.
You can't figure out about your. The world makes no sense if you don't know who you are, but you don't know who you are if you don't deal with the world. There's this reciprocal thing that happens, and
Mm.
and the thing about World of Warcraft and MMOs and games, and I love these things, and it's clear they're going to become a bigger part of the future of the human condition as time goes on. At least I think it is. But there is something that you cannot get there. There's something you cannot get by logging in. And I think that the path for some people is to do content creation. That is a way to take something you love and make something with it. Take on some more serious responsibility with it. And
Yeah.
probably other stuff too.
Creation of any kind is very good for the soul and the mind. I think it's creation of
Yeah,
whether it's a shaman guide or a podcast or a piece of art. You know, creation. That's something that no one can take away from you.
damn straight.
It's yours. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's special. Um, and it's why parents hang on to old stupid doodles you make as a kid.
Yeah.
Why do they do that? You grow up and you're like, oh, I hate that thing, but to them it meant something.
Hmm.
Um,
And to you, it
and
meant something at that time.
I
Yeah.
I look back at my old content and say, what the fuck was I thinking? But okay, I couldn't be where I am today if I didn't do what I did then. And I
Yeah.
choose to look myself in the mirror and say, I like that I'm a podcaster. I like this about myself. I like that I'm not doing this and not doing that, and I am doing this. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I
I agree with
feel,
you, man.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, well, Mel, we're coming up on a couple hours. Should we wrap this thing up?
Sure. I think this was I needed this too, personally. I think this is great. I needed to kind of talk, and uh, an environment that was not just about WoW was nice too. Because I don't know, it's good to talk about life, and I haven't really done that in a
Yes,
while, so I really appreciate that. Yeah.
absolutely, man. I think podcasts are serving a really huge need for that. And
Mhm.
it isn't just the you and the me, because I need this conversation too. That's the reason I have this. I told someone
Yeah.
else I interviewed that I don't do this because I love it. I do it because I got demons. And if I don't do it, they shout at me. I have to
Yeah.
do this.
Yeah.
Um, it's
I
about
understand that.
avoiding hell for me. But then again, that's just the way the fucked up metaphor in my mind is.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that you got something out of this. I did too. And I also absorbed. I think you can also absorb something from content like this, whether it's this specific content or other folks doing this as well. Humans having conversation, exchanging meaning. Um, you know, the fact that we all use language to communicate, which is inherently a symbolic way of interacting. We're not handing things to each other. We're using verbal symbols to communicate. Suggests that we are people who are in a fundamental way engaged in the making of meaning. Why else would we have come out of caves and out of the plains, out of a nomadic existence, and tamed the land and created agriculture? Why would we have built cities? Why would we have made air conditioning in the internet? These are not easy things to do. The modern cave that I live in was not an easy thing to arrive to. It was fucking hard. And there is something that we're all chasing, and this is what happens along the way, as long as you don't screw it all up. Thank you, Mel, for taking the time. Uh, I know you're done with content, man, but is there anything you want to shout out?
Hey, if you ever want to watch any of my old stuff, Death Camp, it's on the podcast. But it's on the stream. But if you listen on the podcast, it's Death Camp and Melderon TV on YouTube.
Where
400 plus videos of classic WoW stuff if you want to watch it. And then my brother
a
streams sometimes.
trove.
Yeah. Twitch.tv/Death Camp is my brother. He'll be might be streaming tomorrow actually, I think. But yeah,
Cool.
so and I'm usually with him when he streams, so you can chat with me there.
Word, man. And hey, man, like I hope everything goes well with the move and the new gig.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Deeg. And yeah, your ending sentiments there about where we have come as a species is we also are standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like
Yes.
and it's whether the internet's more good or more bad, it doesn't really it doesn't really matter. It's part of our evolution, and it could be use it for good reasons. I guess that's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, I'll give my. I guess I gotta say something too about my stuff. I'm Deeg. I think the gaming discourse is a little bit broken, and I'm trying to fix that one discussion at a time. Talk to lovely folks like Melderon, people, developers, streamers, and every Monday night I do a solo discussion about one thing or another. Uh, uh, Earlier this week I talked about Marshall McLuhan, the guy I referenced earlier, who's a constant source of just like mind blowing, like quote bombs, such as being on the air tends to turn us into discarnate beings who merge our identities at the speed of light. Who the fuck says
Wow.
that? Who the
It's
fuck
just
says
so
that?
good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I need to do this, so here we are, and I'll be back again very soon. Thanks, Mel, and thanks everyone who was listening. Love y'all, and I will catch you next time.